I want to move on now. Current, very recent news. Carl Perry announcing that he and his owner Nick Brereton are to lead the industry. Well, certainly Carl's given up training. I had a long chat with him yesterday. He was quite emotional about it. I felt really quite sorry for him because I think anybody that knows Carl, he is an absolute top bloke. He is. I don't think he probably has an enemy in the world. There were various factors that came out that weren't necessarily in the piece that was written. Hopefully we can get him to expand on a few. I know he has a very dear friend who's a trainer who's been absolutely mullered on alleged welfare issues. That again, supposedly someone with the best interest of the industry has been doing dirty snidings off mobile phones. I'm sure that will come out in the fullness of time. I know that very much irritated him, and I think David, he one of the things that he mentioned related to you and the fact that we're dealing with the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of time for Carl. I don't know Nick, but I've been on a Zoom call with Carl, and like you say, he's a gent. I've always got on with Carl, and I think he's a great lad, and he's going to be a big miss to the sport. I hope things change and he can somehow come back. But yeah, he did mention the Arc Grand Prix, and at the time when I wrote the piece about the Grand Prix and about Blue Tick George, I probably came in for a bit of criticism because Blue Tick George ran in the competition, to which I answered that with, it's a syndicate. It's not my position to start dictating to a syndicate, and Matt is the head of the UK side of the syndicate. So whatever happens with George in the UK is a syndicate decision. But yeah, I wrote about the Arc Grand Prix and the prize money now, how poor it was, and I fully understand where he's coming from when he's looking at that. It's hard to justify, isn't it? And it's hard to read what I wrote and what Carl's obviously wrote and not agree with it really when it comes to thinking about buying expensive dogs and running in these type of competitions. And you've either got to win it or finish second in the final to actually to pay its way. It's unsustainable, Floyd. It can't continue as it is. And unfortunately, Carl will probably be one of many that will walk away.
Yeah, I've got. I'm aware of several trainers. In fact, I think we would be announcing the news even before this particular Zoom gets broadcast. That I spoke today to June McComb. Now June is retiring, but I think she's kind of had enough. It's a long ordeal. I think she's stopped enjoying racing. Um, and that's a kind of another subject to be discussed going forward. Peter, obviously, they're your peers, they're your colleagues. I believe you yourself have certainly looking long term about where you want to go in the industry. Wouldn't you tell him something about Brood Bitch?
Yeah, I got a bitch that I thought if I'd had one litter, and she was the last of my line from a group of bitches what I'd had, and I thought she would have chucked a potential derby dog this next time, and I'd got booked in for Ballet McBolger, and I just had to sit down and I rehomed her. She was going to go on the Monday over to Ballet McBolger, and I just took the decision that 2 years is a long time in this business at this point in time, and I don't know what things are going to be like in 2 years' time. And I thought I'm not willing to throw more money at it for the next 2 years, and I wanted to see, so I reowned her, and it was where you said you spoke to Carl and you were upset. I can see, because when I reowned that bitch, it really upset me, because it sort of like was me saying to myself, I don't know whether I've got a future here and that like and stuff. And between now and the next 2 years, I will decide. I'm not saying I'm retiring at this point in time, but I'm saying I'm looking really closely at what happens in the next 2 years. You were discussing June McComb, Floyd, and you mentioned about June retiring. Now, I disagree with you using that term, June retiring. June's packing up because it's no longer viable, and I will tell you now, if it were viable, she would carry on. You know, she's got people there which are really heavily involved in the sport, owners, etc., and they would want her to carry on. You know, age is a factor, but the reason is because she's ploughed in all her life into this sport, and she doesn't want to keep ploughing in. She thinks it's time for herself to do a bit with herself now and not keep subsidising this sport. And that's what there's people up and down the country. They're on pensions. You'll find a lot of this sport is subsidised. People are on pensions and not looking to earn any money out for the work what they're doing, and they're just ploughing in all the time. And I think people are now starting to turn around and say, I don't want to keep ploughing my money in for somebody else to be earning loads of money. Lots of sports people put money in to enjoy, but people aren't reaping fortunes out of them along the way. So they don't mind doing it. Whereas if you're all the time spending, and somebody else is always taking, you turn around and go, hang on a minute, this isn't a two-way thing here. It's all sort of one way. And, you know, in the end, people break and turn around and say, enough's enough.
So when I spoke to Carl, he said it quite upset him. He said, you know, he's going to have options now to go and do something else. He's unfortunately going to lose some kennel star. He said, but he kind of looks around at some of his fellow trainers and thinks, you know, you poor buggers, you some of you are going to struggle to do anything else. You're struggling to stay in business. You're basically struggling to feed yourself. He said, and we keep helping. Well, maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get better. He said, and basically the final straw was when he realised it's not going to get any better, and there is no sort of blue sky in the distance. And at that point, very, very reluctantly, he said, I've got to make a decision. And it was a very, very sad conversation, because, as I said, he's such a genuine bloke.
Yeah, in life, it's a lot of things. I mean, when I had a job years ago, and I got made redundant from this job, and it really upset me. Like, I felt, what's the future? You know, what am I going to do? And actually, it was the making of me, really. But it's like ground racing. It's been your career for such a long time for some people. They don't know any different. You know, you don't get to sort of 50 and turn around and go, well, I'm going to retire now. And because actually what you're doing is you love it. And that's why you're doing it. So why do you want to give something up that you love? The dogs are my life. You know, I go every day and the dogs are happy to see you. And all my families are saying we'd rather have animals over people every day of the week. So you do love these animals, and Cole's really will be upset because he'll be thinking he's walking away from these dogs, you know, and he's not got the things around him what he loves. It won't be so much the sport; it's the animals what Cole's be upset about not being involved in, not seeing grow. It's the pups growing up in the field, and you're always dreaming that's going to be a derby winner, and all. That's what gives you the fire in your belly, and that's what, when you give that up, that's the upsetting side.